Hey guys, it's me again, and today I'm gonna make a video on how to make donuts with your car in Sleeping Dogs. Now actually, this is not what the video is about at all, and you know that because you read the title. Hey, can we drive in here again? I've actually never tried this. Oh, that's funny. Either way, we're gonna get a new car. Today, we're gonna talk about Sleeping Dogs 2. And will there ever be Sleeping Dogs 2? Because a lot of questions are left unanswered for a lot of people.
I wish I could live your life just for
So let's start off. How did Sleeping Dogs came to be? Because that's what we really need to know if we want to know if there's actually gonna be a Sleeping Dogs 2. Well, the way Sleeping Dogs came to be was a game publisher reached out to a game developer, like always. But in this case, the game publisher was actually Activision and the game developer was United Front Games. So what happened? Activision basically said, you know, we need a new open world game and have a blast, have fun, do something, you know, do what you want and enjoy. We will fund it. So United Front Games started working on a new Hong Kong crime type of game, and they called it Black Lotus initially. So then in 2008 the game was starting to take shape. Activision took a look and said, hey, this actually is really similar to our true crime series and it would fit in there, and you know, it has some fun elements that we can use to revitalize the true crime series, because true crime had up to that point not been doing very well. It had been expensive to produce and the sale results were not good. So, you know, the game got edited and it became a little bit different. It got changed to look more like true crime. So United Front Games kept working on it until basically 2010, and then in 2011, January 2011, Activision was discussing the financial reports, and while discussing the financial reports, Sleeping Dogs, or True Crime as it was called back then, came up. And you know, they basically decided to pull the plug on it, even though at this point it was as good as finished. The game was practically finished. So there was kind of an outrage over that, but up to that point the game had cost a lot of money to produce as well, because there were some issues. You know, you can imagine the first time Activision reached out to United Front Games, it was in 2007. So in 2011, if you want to release a game in 2011 with 27 graphics, you know, that's not gonna work. It would look outdated, it would look old by its release, so that wasn't gonna work. So those had to be updated as well, and you know, the game had to be changed to true crime and everything, so it wasn't really working out. And at that point Activision said, you know, we already spent too much money on this, we're gonna stop, we're just gonna pull the plug and it's gonna be over, it's gonna be done. Because they also had concerns about other games like Red Dead Redemption and GTA that were coming out at that time, and they saw how those games looked and what those games played like and everything, and they just had concerns. They just thought, okay, our true crime Hong Kong isn't going to be good enough, pull the plug, because this is just going to make us look bad. That guy is a maniac. So what basically happened is the project laid low, nothing happened to it. It wasn't funded anymore, so United Front Games basically fired a whole bunch of people, and the game laid there just basically intact. It was as good as done. You could already play through the entire game from beginning to end. And it just sat there until eventually Square Enix came around mid 2012, and they said, hey, that looks interesting. If you can get basically a finished game for the right price, let's do that. They also saw a lot more potential in the game than Activision saw. So what happened is Square Enix bought the game, and they got it, and then they started working on it yet again, even though it was basically a finished game, because Square Enix couldn't sell this as a true crime game, obviously. So there had to be a new name, some other things had to be changed, you know, achievements, whatever. So United Front Games hired a lot of people again, and they started working on this game yet again, and now it was called Sleeping Dogs. I don't know how they came up with the name, because honestly it's a pretty terrible name. They might have wanted to make it relatable to Watch Dogs in some way or form, but I'm not entirely sure. Look at this. Is this an action movie? Wow. Dudes, this looks like the Bruce Lee filming. Doesn't matter. Enter the Dragon, baby. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, Square Enix basically bought the game, and they worked on it, and then they released it on August 14th, 2012 as Sleeping Dogs, which is exactly 4 years ago by the time I'm recording this. And the game was pretty popular. It sold way better than Activision would have originally thought. So it was sort of a success, but other games that got released by Square Enix at the same time, like Tomb Raider and Hitman Absolution, they did a similar amount of sales. So it was a good release, even though Square Enix themselves considered it a failure, because it didn't sell as much as they would have liked, even though it was one of the better selling games of 2012 and 2013. So yeah, I guess if it's a success or failure is just a matter of how you look at it. Anyway, they also made a definitive edition in 2014, which just came out 2 weeks ago on Mac. So you can imagine being a PC player on Mac is terrible, because you have to wait ages for your games. And they started working on a new project, Triad Wars, which was supposed to be the new Sleeping Dogs. It was kind of not the new Sleeping Dogs, it wouldn't be the Sleeping Dogs 2. It was supposed to sort of be a Sleeping Dogs MMORPG, like a multiplayer online game, where people could just play as, instead of Wei Shen and the Cover Cup, they will play as thugs, you know, and they could mess around and rob banks and do everything they liked and whatever. And that looked fun, and that got developed to place also in Hong Kong, so they used the same map, until it eventually got to beta release. And during this beta release, a lot of people played it, and a lot of people gave feedback, and a lot of people liked it, but there were also people that said, you know, the game just doesn't feel right for me. It is Sleeping Dogs, but it's, you know, it's the same, but it's different. I don't know. So, you know, Square Enix eventually agreed with them and said, you know, we're not gonna release it. And they left the beta open to be played for a couple of more weeks or months, until January 20th. And at this point, they just pulled the plug, and that was the end of Triad Wars. So now we have basically 2 games that the plug got pulled on. So the question now is, will there ever be a Sleeping Dogs 2? And the answer is probably not. Most likely not. Because, as you can imagine, it's kind of a weird game on how this came to be, Sleeping Dogs. So, you know, making a part 2, it's just gonna be weird. But at the same time, throughout all this time and throughout all these changes, they still stayed with the same game developer, United Front Games. So if they want to make another one, it's definitely possible. I just don't think it's very likely. Especially at that point, it just seems a little bit too late. In a couple of years, people will have completely forgotten about Sleeping Dogs and don't even know what their game is. You know, a lot of newer players will have never heard about Sleeping Dogs. So yeah, that's basically it. I also wanted to mention that this is probably gonna be my last video on Sleeping Dogs for some time. For quite some time. Because I'm making playthroughs and everything right now. Or I'm not making playthroughs, I was making how-to videos. Which were fun, but... And I love making them and making guides on Steam. I made guides about them. But you know, the game isn't played as much anymore as it once was. So, you know, it's just not paying off as much as I'd hoped. So I'm gonna pull the plug on this one as well, and you know, explore other games, explore other things. Not like Sleeping Dogs is the only game that I've played, but you know what I mean. Now start making videos about some other games as well. Before I end this video, I want to say shout out to the Reddit Sleeping Dogs community, where I've been posting my videos and they've been consistently liking my videos on Reddit. If you came here from Reddit, please leave a comment and tell me what you think, tell me what your thoughts are on Sleeping Dogs 2, and if you still like this game as much as I do and want there to be Sleeping Dogs 2. Maybe subscribe if you like the video. There will be other fun games and videos in the future, and I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like. Yeah, have a good time. Thanks for watching, everybody, because it has become quite a long video, 12 minutes. Yeah, I guess we're gonna end it right here.